Welcome to the HR Uprising podcast. This podcast series explores HR hot topics and challenges through conversations with relevant experts and real-life HR, learning, and OD professionals. The HR Uprising is about learning through collaboration and evidence-based action. We want colleagues to have the confidence and skills to rise up through their organizations by delivering real, lasting business value. Now, introducing your host, chartered psychologist, experienced change agent, entrepreneur, speaker, and coach, Lucinda Carney.
Hello there, this is Lucinda Carney from the HR Uprising podcast, and this week I'm going to be running a conversation with a lady that I've known for 10 years. We set up our business around almost exactly the same time, actually.
Yeah.
And her name is Bina Briggs. So Bina runs Plain Talking HR, an HR consultancy, and I'll let you explain a little bit more in a moment, Bina, about what that is. But the purpose I felt of running this podcast, I thought it would be quite an interesting one from the point of view that many HR people want to make a move into independent consultancy. Yeah. And obviously you've made a success of that over the last 10 years. And so I'm sure there are tips that you found along the way that you might do differently. Mm-hmm. And also there might be ways in which HR professionals might choose to use a consultancy like yours. Mm-hmm. So I guess that's the angle that we felt might be relevant to this audience.
Okay.
So I suppose just starting off, Bina, if you want to just give us a little bit of background about you and Plain Talking HR.
Mm-hmm. Hi, Lucinda. Well, it's a really lovely surprise, first of all, for you wanting me to be here as your interviewee. So talking about, we go back a long time, and I do remember.
Taught me how to use Twitter.
And I do remember us doing that. I started this business, part of the business, 10 years ago. Prior to that, I was head of HR at London Luton Airport. So all I knew was the corporate world, nothing else.
Yes.
And that was it. And then things changed, and I came out of the corporate, and I joined Bronwyn Philpott, who also was, at the time, just before I left the company, she was the head of HR for Monarch Airlines and Monarch Engineering. And so for us, and we had known each other for a number of years as opposite numbers. And so I kind of bumped into her at I think it was some seminar thing at Barnfield College, and seemed a bit surprised that she was dressed fairly casually, which we used to be all suited.
So the shift from corporate?
We used to be all suited and booted,
Yes.
at the corporate. So it was kind of a surprise. And then I just asked her, and she said, I'm leaving and I'm all that. And so she said, I'm starting a company called Plain Talking HR. I haven't started trading yet, and I'm going to go off on holiday. I need that before I do anything else. So I said, that's interesting, etc. So I left the company, my company, around about 2 months after she'd left hers. So I asked her, while she was in Australia on holiday, said, how about us having a chat? Because I just didn't feel like going back into the corporate world due to a number of circumstances. So I just thought, no, that sounds really...
something new.
To be honest, I had never thought that I would be a consultant.
Yes.
That's the honest truth.
Right.
Because I'd been in the corporate world for so long that I thought this was it, and so
you only ever thought about yourself as being in-house?
In-house, always in-house, head of HR for London Luton Airport, been there for a long time, had done, seen the growth of the company from where it had only 1 million passengers a year to about 10 million. And all the developments you've seen at the airport, and that was at the time, basically all of that, it was during my time where the growth was from something like between 40 to 43% year on year.
Absolutely crazy.
And absolutely crazy.
Luton is
and all the new things that you've seen, and I mean, now people take it for granted, but
so it's a real transformation
a whole transformation of everything. So I was part of that. So realistically, so when I said to Bronwyn, shall we join forces? And she was of the same mindset, thinking, oh gosh, she was on head of HR for 2,000 people, and suddenly on her own, starting this company. And she thought, I think that would be great.
To work in partnership with somebody.
To work as partnership. So we started off the partnership in April 2009. And, we were quite naive in a way, but at the same time, we did have a coach, and the business coach, who actually pointed us in the right direction about doing a business plan and strategy and social media. Back in 2009, 2 things she said to us. First of all, network like hell.
Yeah.
Just network to get yourselves known, because nobody knows you
outside of your company.
Outside the corporate.
Everyone knows you in your company.
You're in a bubble. You're in a bubble. So nobody will know you, and there's a whole lot of stuff that goes on underneath. And she was so right. And the other thing was, she said, social media.
Yeah.
Get on Twitter
early
now, and LinkedIn and Twitter and Facebook when you do your own Facebook page. But it was all about, as she said, go on Twitter. That's one of the best things you can do. Bronwyn wasn't quite she was okay, but she wasn't very comfortable with it.
Yeah, you've always been very natural with it, haven't you?
And I just took to it, and it's been great. And for me, going back to, the HR and all that, I found the HR community on Twitter, and it's been fantastic. And, some of the people I've known there now, like Kate, KGL, Mervyn, Doug, you name it.
Really active community, isn't it? And very friendly
so
community.
Many people on
Supportive.
there, and it's been like with tweet ups and all that, and the face to face, and it's continued.
So would you say then one of the things that was, although your business coach was saying go on Twitter to grow your business, you also, by building your network, it was a support network, because it can be quite isolating, can't it, working independently?
Exactly. And it was just Bronwyn and myself at the beginning. And obviously, as times moved on, Bronwyn retired 2 years ago. The business is mine, and I've taken it further, and so on. But all the time, one of the things that we did was, obviously the networking helped.
Yeah.
To bring in the business and, get ourselves known, and with our branding and so on. And the black and white with the orange, and the orange, and everybody knows me with the orange.
Yeah.
And in the beginning, people used to say, it's the big orange company up on the hill, EasyJet. And I said, well, actually, I'm not EasyJet. And number 2, EasyJet doesn't have the right to the color orange.
No.
They haven't patented it to say it's theirs. So,
but it's having your identity. That's like mine's purple.
It was our identity.
Yeah.
And one of the things that happened was that we decided that, having been in corporate, it was very difficult to then think, because we were all corporate minded and branding and, what you stood for. And we thought, how are people going to find us? How are we going to stand out in a crowd? If you're in a group of people in a networking event or somewhere, and this has to be a hook that people will remember you by.
Yeah.
And we didn't want a uniform or anything like that, and so on. So we thought, right, let's play on the branding that we've got with black and white, with orange as our colors and our logo and so on. And then we realized that actually those are the colors of Luton Town Football Club as well. It kind of clicked, And so the whole thing came together very well. And we just thought, well, if it's splash...
So would you wear those colours when you went out to, networking events?
Yeah. And either it's an orange scarf or usually, because I love scarves, so it became quite an easy thing to do, because you do black and white anyway with, corporate suits or dresses or whatever, and just add a splash of orange somewhere. And then it was very easy to say to somebody, look, okay, if you haven't met them before, you just say, oh, by the way, just look for an orange scarf when I'm there, and that would be me. And quite likely...
And then, so you had the chat, I can see how that would work, especially, at the sort of local events, which would be, I would have thought, your core market, so the Federation of Small Businesses or the various type of things, so being visible is great. So you're saying it was thinking about it, because I don't know that everyone thinks about that. So you thought about your brand, thought about your website, thought about how you were going to look and how you're going to be identified, and you identified that networking for both support and for new customers.
Yeah, and I think being an HR consultant is a really different ballgame to being in the corporate world, So you have to think about all the different things that brings it all together as you as a business. And for me and for us, it has continued with me being on my own now, and I have got a support team. One of the things that I've learned that the best thing you could do is outsource everything that you're not good at.
Yeah.
And you don't need to do.
Yeah.
And
accounts or whatever that might be.
Accounts, bookkeeping, marketing, sales, a website, or whatever it is that, your admin.
And that's quite hard when you're a small business, isn't it? Because you're spending money on stuff, but then it's...
But the thing is, the mindset is that you have to look at your hourly rate. And you look, and that's the easiest way I've learned to say my hourly rate is X. I am paying. If I was to get an admin person in, I will pay them, say for argument's sake, I don't know, £20 an hour. My hourly rate is not £20 an hour to my clients or any activity that I carry out. So automatically, am I going to spend that 1 hour doing admin, or should I be concentrating on business and developing the business?
Yes. And
simple as that.
And it's just valuing yourself, valuing your time.
And number one. Number two is also do what you're good at and leave the rest to people who are good at that, and that means that automatically I started doing the business development, and, I know it's a cliche, work on your business rather than in your business. Yeah. And a lot of the smaller businesses like me don't get that at the beginning. And you might have to do a lot of slog and a lot of work yourself on a number of things at the beginning. But you need to let go as soon as possible. Have that mindset to say, when I get so much money or X amount of money, I'm going to outsource that bit and I'm going to outsource that bit. Yeah. And so you're freeing yourself from all the things that you don't need to do. You're not good at doing them, and then concentrate on what you really are good at and you should be doing. Yes. And that's how it goes.
Completely. And then you'll build your business faster because you're doing the stuff you're good at and you enjoy and you deliver more. And it's very hard, isn't it, in the early stages, because you are almost juggling. You kind of work between working in the business, on the business.
And we did that, and I think everybody does that. The other thing that I found was, again, obviously, the two areas of social media and HR especially. The HR community has helped me a lot because, to keep up with what's going on in the HR in the HR world, looking at all the events that are happening and so on and so forth. Yeah. I know I don't attend some of the ones that I should be, but again, I keep looking at what's going on the social media so I can see, connecting with people, having conversations with people. And the other thing is about networking.
How do you choose which ones to go on? Actually, I was going to say in terms of this thing. Yeah. How do you choose which events to go on to?
Okay, depending on
the time and cost is not unlimited, is it? Yeah.
Well, the cost is number one, but number two is, more importantly, what am I going to learn from it? If it is an HR community business, then I feel that it's more about connection and knowing the people and understanding what they're doing and sharing the knowledge and learning from them. Yeah. So I'd much rather go to that because it's part of me and
learning
my community.
From others, yes.
And learning from others. And it's camaraderie as well. You feel you belong somewhere. Yes. When it is a networking event purely for business, then I would look at what kind of event it is, number one. Number two, the kind of people who are going to be there. Yeah. Does it really conflict with anything and everything? Is it a one-off or is it like a series? So, I belong to a number of organizations, networking organizations, business organizations. So there's always events that they hold, like the Chamber, they've been fantastic. Yes. And, a couple of the other networking organizations. So again, it is a case of knowing, you can't network all the time. Obviously, in the beginning, we had to get ourselves promoted and out there in front of people. But now it's a case of what's going to A, pay me, B, what am I going to gain from it? How long is going to take me to get there and back? And it's the time.
Definitely.
And can I kind of spend that time more wisely somewhere else?
Absolutely. And again, because you are networking through social media as well, you can fit that in and around. Yeah. Whereas actually physically going places, is less flexible, isn't it?
Exactly. And so and the other thing that I think you wanted to know was about being an HR consultant.
Yeah.
How does it work?
Yes.
And as being on your own, it is different, but at the same time, it's exciting. It's very exciting because I know that the clients we have, and most of them come through networking, most of them come through referrals and then repeat referrals and so on. So, the kind of work I do retainers, I do ad hoc, I do projects, whatever, whether it is just the clients or other HR providers, and they ask me to go and help them out.
So that when you said that, so retained, as in, so you'd be the retained on-hand sort of person?
So the retained are the ones who would be my clients, and they pay me on a monthly basis, and this is just
they
continuous.
draw you when they need you.
And it's basically, I'm the HR department from start to finish.
Yeah.
But anything they need and everything they need, instead of when you are in a large company and you pick up the phone to the HR department, or, depending what you want, whether it's the head of HR or the business partner or the director or whatever.
Which is it closer to? Because obviously a lot of the audience on here would be in a corporate, let's say a corporate HR role.
Yeah.
Doing what you do now, would you say it fits? Is it more like business partnering? Which of the roles would you say it's more similar
I think it's a between a business partner and a director, because we deal on two levels. I do on strategic, and I do almost what I would call a transactional kind of. So the support is, they might want to, like, for instance, I've just set up a small a trader. They're in the kind of building trade, and I've just set them up, but they're just taking on their first client, first employee. And so had to deal with, the recruitment side, the contract and employee handbook, terms and conditions, and all the different bits and pieces and forms, and managing them and induction and all that. So I've done all that for them and kind of got them educated and given them all the support. Now they'll run free and for a while, but because they're on as a retained client, they can pick up the phone or email me or whatever, and because then I've become the support.
Yeah.
But then as they start growing, there'll be more strategic stuff coming through to say, look, my business is changing. What do I do with this now? How do I do this? Then performance reviews will come in, and how can I do this better?
Yes.
Then the benefits start rolling in. So that's one kind of
over
client.
time, naturally. Yeah.
The other side of the clients are where they've grown quite a bit. They've done things on their own, and they've kind of, rumbled on, and then they find that, they want to do it correctly. They want to be compliant. They maybe have had issues where suddenly they've had an employee issue, and they need somebody, and then think, I need somebody with HR. So they come to me quite often. That's the route they come.
Yeah.
And so we deal with whatever the employee issue is, whether it's something to do with legal, or it could be, they just want somebody to hear a disciplinary appeal or a grievance appeal or whatever it is. Because being a small company, they might have run after people to actually listen and carry out the different stages. So, it happens there. But then from there, it could then come out that they obviously haven't got any real support in HR. And because the way I do the work, then they said, Bina, can we talk for a long time?
So you've built the trust really then, haven't you? And you've shown the value, and then they just naturally want to progress.
Exactly. Sometimes it happens that they will just come because they've grown to a point and they are very astute in the way they're doing business, and they know that they've got to a stage where they really should be having HR as part of their makeup. Because a lot of the times also, if they're going for any accreditations or whatever, they would be asked, with health and safety and whatever, they'll say, right, who's doing your HR? Who's your accountant and so on. They need to produce all that stuff. So what I was just thinking, actually consolidating what you've just talked about there. So you're almost identifying the pain points that your potential clients would have as to why they would choose, because, there are small businesses who won't take on a retained HR person. No, they won't.
So you're saying it's things like accreditations where they've got a form, or maybe they're going for a big tender or something like that, where you've got to go and demonstrate.
And they will say, right, we need that. But
or it's issues
a number of my clients are ones who know that, or quite often, my kind of introducers are business coaches as well, because where a business coach has gone into a company and say they've got 20 people in the company, but I don't look at their profit margins or anything. I look at the number of employees. Yeah. And they've got probably 15, 20 employees. They're doing very well, but they've now started to shoot up and they're growing and they've got a really great, opportunity to grow for the next 5 years. The business coach has come on board and it's all hunky-dory, but they haven't got anything as far as the people are concerned. Yeah. And so business coach says, you need HR.
Yes.
And so then that's how I come in. Yeah. Quite often my introducers could be an accountant. Yeah. Because accountants, again, will have the similar kind of clients that I have, where, again, they might have, 1 or 2 people or, 20 or 30 people. They've been rumbling along and then suddenly they think they need HR.
The sort of natural step
so
up.
It's natural.
It's only the same thinking as you're saying, outsource the things you can't do yourself,
exactly,
right?
Exactly. And so suddenly, the penny drops that, look, we concentrate on the business. And one of the things that we've survived in, some real tough times and grown is the fact that, you have to think about what you're bringing to the party, as it were. What's my contribution to my client? And it's always been, and it's not really a buzzword. It is about keeping it simple. Yeah.
I was going to ask you why you're called Plain Talking HR. So that's
Bronwyn actually got the name because she said, I hated jargon. She hated jargon. I hate jargon. We're of the old kind of school where, keep it simple. Yes. If somebody has to ask you the question, when you explain something and somebody says, you just said something, does that mean la, 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 la? Or is this what you meant? Yeah. You lost them already. And, quite often we're all very good at jargon because we think that, everybody wants to hear how clever we are. That's not the case. The case is, really, you're there to help that individual, that company, that client think about their pain, think about what they want to know, and keep it simple because they understand. They don't want to know how clever you are. They just want you to sort out their issues, their problems. So you keep it.
They don't want to know how clever they are.
You have to be.
Just make it go away.
You've got to get into their brain and think about what they're thinking about, and actually, you're a supplier. So what they want to know is how quickly you can supply, how much will it cost, is it going to be of value, and does it fit in with what I do and with my business? So you have to actually think about how you're going to fit in with their culture. If it's something that really doesn't sit right with you, walk away. Yeah. Please do, which I do, and luckily it's only been two or three clients so far where I've said, no, thank you, but I don't think it will work. Yeah. And I've just walked away. Or they've come on board and then I think, no, this is not working. Yeah. And I've just said, sorry, but I will not put my name to something that you're going to do, which I don't agree with, which I don't feel comfortable with. Yeah. So thank you.
It's about your professionalism and integrity,
correct.
Isn't it?
Exactly.
But again, that loops back to you saying from the start, having real clarity about who you are and what you stand for.
Yeah, and, I'm here to help my client, to make sure that they're compliant, to make sure that they have a good company culture, and it's a fair kind of relationship between the employer and the employees. So they're treating their employees fairly. The employees know that the employer is fair. So they're both working together. And I make it happen with all the things that I kind of mentor, whoever it is at whatever levels. Quite often it's a mentoring kind of, say, an office manager or like an HR business partner or somebody like that, and mentoring the MD or the business owner.
So are you sometimes, there's lots of things to ask actually, if from an HR consultant point of view, going into it, what would you say the sort of sweet spot is about size of company in terms of people? Because it would be people.
People. So I would look at anybody who's got maybe 1 or 2 people to about 150, I reckon. 200, pushing it a bit, because after that people will bring the HR function in-house.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. Do you ever end up working with in-house HR people as well?
I have actually worked with supporting them.
Yes. So it's almost like that they are the HR department of one. So again, they need someone to help get stuff done.
Or quite often, we've actually, one of the companies that we helped with a long time ago, and they just brought in a graduate who had the HR qualification, but they had no work experience at all. So then we kind of trained them up, and the company was growing really fast. So then, we said, well, when we actually took them on board, there were about 300 plus employees. But because it was manufacturing, it was food production, it wasn't too bad because they had some systems in place which they were sorting out. But they didn't have anything to do with HR, and they were having holiday stuff. So we put in about a year's worth of training the HR.
Quite a smart way of doing things that for them, actually, I'm thinking.
Yeah. And it was, and we trained them, but we trained the management, we trained the supervisors, and put a whole lot of things in place.
Yes.
And got them up and running, and then
made yourselves dispensable, but helped them
in a way.
Them get there.
But then I think it's like anything else, isn't it, in life, that you have to think about. You can't hold on to everything. You can't hold on to anyone. It's like even in the corporate world. When you bring a new person on board, you can't hold on to them. You know that they're going to be with you for 2 or 3 years, but at that time, those 3 years are precious. That you teach them, you mentor them, you develop them, you grow them.
Absolutely.
Because that's when you've done your job. And then they're going to go away, but that's fine. But in the same ilk, you're going to get somebody who's already had that when you're recruiting, experienced people. Guess where that experience come from?
Absolutely. And I think it's a very credible way of doing things, isn't it? As often if a consultant's coming in and they're clearly not just creating work for themselves. They are genuinely putting your what is in the best interest of the client,
exactly.
and you're putting in place a strategy. That's how you get your extra recommendations,
exactly.
Isn't it?
And my ethos is, integrity is vital. And the way I do business is, look, what you see is what you get. It's simple, straightforward, practical, pragmatic. I'm not here to get money out of you on the false pretenses. I'm only here to help you. I'd love it to be a good relationship, which is, with all my clients, it's a good relationship. We grow, we develop together, and, everybody's happy. And at the end of the day, that's what we're there for, to make sure that, our clients are compliant. We do our job as professionals. That's what happens.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so in terms of, I suppose, the last 5 minutes of where we're up to, you've got 10 years experience here, and I'm sure not everything went plain sailing.
No, of course it didn't.
So which learnings would you say, or how could you help other people avoid mistakes that maybe you've found
Number
difficult?
one, I would say definitely understand your market, and don't be, sort of available for everything and everybody. At the same time, really, really understand what kind of clients you want. It doesn't mean that you have small, you just have a medium size or a large size. It just means understanding what is it that what are you doing for your clients, and what kind of clients are going to be the ones who will get the best out of your service. So, number one. Number two, I would say that definitely, things that I wouldn't work on the business too long. Just go for outsourcing as much as I can in the first year or so, couple of years. Just start outsourcing.
Value
one thing at value,
yeah.
And look at your own your company culture. Look at your what makes you tick, and make sure that you have got the right kind of ethos and ethics as your clients. So company culture is really important. It's important to me, but it's also important that you understand your client's company culture. And quite often we have, in the very beginning, I have worked with a couple of clients because they were paying money, and this was right at the beginning when we started. And both Bronwyn and I said after that, we are not going to take clients on we're not feeling comfortable with just because they're going to pay money.
Yeah.
And we haven't done that since, and I haven't done it since. And
you've got to have the confidence almost to trust your gut.
And the trust and the confidence in ourselves and the value that we bring to the client. But also, it goes against the grain when you know that the individual's ethics or morals aren't the same as yours or the standards. Your standard has to be one that you can live with and you can sleep at night. And quite often we had 2 or 3 clients, and I just felt it was just awful. So just walk away.
Choose your customers,
Choose your customers, and and the thing is that you don't have to hide the truth because it's always there. You don't have to pretend because it's always there. Either people will like you or people won't, and no matter what you do, either way, it's not going to get swayed. So you might as well just stay with what you feel comfortable with and what your true selves are. And that's
good advice. It's being congruent, isn't it, with who you are? And then my final questions, I guess, would be, what's the worst thing about the role and what's the best thing about the role? We'll finish on the positive.
Yeah, the worst thing is obviously the money. Obviously, it's not, the first time my pay used to be on the 15th of each month, and suddenly the first 15th after that, I'm thinking there's no money dropping in that bank account. So that's one.
The actual variability
the
of
variability.
It.
So you have to do your own budgeting and everything else. Support, it's very important to surround yourself with the right people in everything, with all the different services. So again, get used to that. That is a downfall in a way, because if you don't do that, you are going to be running around like a headless chicken, number one. Number two,
that's being spread too thin, isn't it? It was one of the things.
Until you get used to how it all works and how it falls in place, it is difficult. And the loneliness, it can be at times. If you're working for a large company and suddenly you come out and you're on your own in the back bedroom of your house, or you got a managed office somewhere in a big building, you're still on your own. So that could be, some people hate that. The best thing is obviously, for instance, I can kind of wake up in the morning whenever I want to, more or less. I can go wherever I want to. I've already marked up that on this Friday, I'm finishing work at 3:00 in the afternoon. Now, okay, I can do that in the corporate world, but quite likely, then I would have to think about how am I going to make up for that time. Or feel guilty, or you might be.
It's a freedom, isn't it? Your time is your own. So you could decide to go and do the work you're going to do then at the weekend if you want to. You don't have to ask permission.
Exactly. Yeah. It doesn't restrict me to the 9 to 5 or any other thing. And I know that now it's so easy for everybody to work. But I just feel that it is a freedom of decision making. It's a freedom of lifestyle. Mm-hmm. It's a freedom of a confidence, and a freedom of just being your boss, your own boss.
And I suppose, I'm sorry, I know I said it was last question, but I'll switch it, a little bit of a question. I suppose there's something about the right personality for something like this, so you need to actually be comfortable with that level of freedom, because that also, with that, becomes responsibility to choose to do the right things. You have to have the confidence to go out and talk to people and work proportionately on and in your business. So it's not everybody's cup of tea, is it? It's because of that.
And to be honest, as I said, we are not good at everything. Mm-hmm. And that means that a number of times you have to be really, really honest with yourself and say, quite often, I don't have a problem in walking in a room full of other in a networking event. Mm-hmm. I can walk up to anybody and say hello. If somebody needs to ring up somebody, a client, to say, by the way, we haven't been paid. I don't have a problem with that, whereas Bronwyn used to. She
play to your strengths there, or again,
and I didn't have a problem with that. I would just ring them up nicely and whatever. So a number of things are, we are good at, but other things we might not be. So this is where you have to really be honest with yourself to say, okay, you might, if you're good at developing business and building business, that's fine. And you know your stuff in HR, and you know the legislation, you know how to kind of, work on that. But at the same time, if you don't have any other kind of attributes which makes a good business person, then quite likely, I think twice and maybe go for another role in the corporate world.
Yeah.
I actually, funny enough, I do a lot of mentoring, and a lot of times I say to people, look, if you've got any issues, give me a call. I'd much rather, you spend 5-10 minutes with me rather than jumping and then find, oh my God, what have I done?
Yeah.
Funny enough, I've got a lady coming tomorrow to see me who wants to be an HR consultant. They got put in touch with me by somebody I've known for a long time, and they said, go and talk to Bina. She'll tell you whether you should be a consultant or not. So I'm just talking to this young lady coming to see me tomorrow.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yes, because whether there's personality, whether there's experience. And I suppose there are some franchises out there, aren't there, where people maybe get a little bit more support, but you've done it completely on your...
No, it is all independent.
Yeah.
It's a one-off.
Yeah. Good for you. Well, we'll wrap up now because we've been chatting for a while. So I just wanted to say it's lovely to see you again, Bina.
Lovely. Thank you.
Thank you very much for being part of this.
Me.
Absolutely. And it was great to have you on. And what we'll do in terms of your networking, so we have show notes on each episode, and then show notes on the HR Uprising webpage, which is easily accessible. So we'll put your details on. I'm sure you'd encourage people to grow your network, link in and tweet you. Lovely.
Definitely.
Thank you very much, Bina.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the HR Uprising podcast. You can access more information, including resources or links mentioned in the show, at our website, www.hruprising.com. Also, you might want to join our LinkedIn community or tweet to us at HR Uprising. We'd love to hear from you.